Hey, sweetheart, how about you smile for us real men? The encrypted satellite phone in Rebecca Thompson's apron pocket vibrated with the emergency tone that could authorize drone strikes across 3 continents in under 60 seconds. "I'll get your drinks right up, gentlemen." Her voice carried the practiced patience of someone who'd spent the week serving beer to bikers who had no idea she'd spent 5 years eliminating high-value targets for Delta Force. What Marcus "Razor" Williams didn't know was that the quiet 35-year-old bartender wiping down his table had earned the call sign Ghost and was about to receive intelligence that would change everything. The Arizona sun had baked the cracked asphalt outside the Desert Rose Saloon all day, leaving the air inside thick and heavy despite the struggling ceiling fan. Classic rock hummed low from corner speakers, mixing with the clink of glasses and the murmur of evening regulars. Behind the weathered wooden bar, Rebecca moved with the quiet efficiency of someone who preferred actions to words. She'd been the evening bartender here for 3 years now, ever since she'd bought the small adobe house on the outskirts of Tucson with her military pension. The locals knew her as Becca, reliable, professional, and mysteriously private about her past. Her steel-gray eyes, usually hidden behind worn aviators even indoors, had a way of seeing everything while revealing nothing. The rumble started as distant thunder, growing louder until the windows rattled. 12 Harley-Davidson motorcycles roared into the gravel parking lot, their chrome gleaming under the setting sun. The Iron Wolves had arrived in Tucson. Marcus "Razor" Williams kicked open the saloon's heavy oak door first, his steel-toed boots announcing his entrance like gunshots. Tall and wiry, with arms covered in crude tattoos and a face marked by too many bar fights, he surveyed the room like a predator choosing prey. "Well, well," Razor announced, his voice cutting through the music. "Looks like we found ourselves a nice quiet place to wet our whistles." The other Iron Wolves filed in behind him, 11 men carrying the same aggressive swagger. They spread across the saloon, claiming tables like conquering armies. Rebecca continued polishing glasses, her movements unchanged. But there was something different about this quiet. It wasn't submission or fear. It was the calm of someone who'd learned to conserve energy for when it mattered most. "You hear that, boys?" Razor called out, approaching the bar. "Dead silent in here, just how I like my women, seen and not heard." The gang erupted in crude laughter. Rebecca set down the glass and turned to face them, her expression neutral behind the aviators. "What can I get you gentlemen to drink?" she asked, her voice steady and professional. Razor leaned against the bar, studying her face. "Look at this one, boys. Polite little thing. I bet she's real grateful for the business, aren't you, sweetheart?" But what they didn't realize about this quiet 35-year-old would change everything in that desert saloon. What came next would prove that the most dangerous warriors are often hiding in plain sight. 12 beers, Razor announced, not asking but commanding. "And make sure they're cold. We've been riding hard from Phoenix and we don't appreciate warm beer or slow service." "Of course," Rebecca replied, beginning to line up bottles. Her peripheral vision tracked each gang member's position, a habit ingrained through years of clearing hostile buildings where every shadow could hide death. The largest biker, a mountain of a man they called Diesel, slapped his massive hand on the bar. "Damn, Razor, this little mouse really doesn't talk much, does she? Maybe she's too scared to speak up around real men." Rebecca's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly, but she continued serving without comment. Behind her calm exterior, muscle memory was cataloging threats. Diesel's reach advantage, the knife visible on Razor's belt, broken bottles within reach. "Hey!" Razor snapped his fingers inches from Rebecca's face. "Earth to bartender. When customers are talking to you, it's polite to respond." Sarah, the young waitress, looked up nervously from her corner table. Old Pete folded his newspaper and watched with the careful attention of someone who'd seen violence before. Tommy, barely 22 and new to the job, looked ready to bolt. Rebecca set down the last beer and straightened, meeting Razor's gaze through her aviators. "Your drinks are ready, sir. That'll be $48. $48? Another biker laughed harshly. "Hear that, boys? Little lady thinks we're paying full price. Maybe she doesn't understand how protection works in this part of Arizona." The satellite phone buzzed once, a routine check-in from Langley. Rebecca ignored it, focusing on the escalating situation. Through her years in special operations, she'd learned to read violence like storm patterns. The pressure was building rapidly. Razor reached across the bar and slowly removed Rebecca's aviators, revealing steel-gray eyes that had seen too much and forgotten nothing. For just a moment, something flickered in those depths, something ancient and dangerous. "Well, would you look at that?" he said, studying her face. "Pretty little thing's got some fire in her after all. Those are soldiers' eyes, boys." The other iron wolves gathered closer, sensing entertainment. Rebecca stood perfectly still, calculating distances and angles. Her training had taught her to appear calm even as her mind ran tactical assessments. 12 hostiles, multiple weapons, civilians present, limited cover. "Tell you what, sweetheart," Razor continued, pocketing her sunglasses. "You serve us all night, keep our glasses full, and maybe keep us entertained. And we'll make sure this nice little place stays in business." The implied threat hung in the air like smoke. Rebecca's hand moved to her apron, checking the position of her phone. Priority alpha calls didn't come often, and when they did, lives hung in the balance. "I appreciate the offer," Rebecca said quietly, "but the Desert Rose has been doing just fine without protection." That's when the satellite phone rang with the tone that would expose the deadliest operator in the Southwest. That's when Marcus saw something around her neck that made his blood run cold. Rebecca stepped into the saloon's small back office, pressing the encrypted phone to her ear. "Ghost, secure line. Ghost, this is Control. We have a priority alpha situation. 3 high-value targets crossed into your sector. Pakistani ISI assets armed and extremely dangerous. You're our closest asset." Through the office window, Rebecca could see Razor's gang getting more aggressive. Sarah was backing toward the kitchen. The situation was deteriorating rapidly. "Control, I'm currently in a civilian environment with multiple non-combatants present. Negative, Ghost. These targets killed 17 Americans last month. You are authorized for immediate interdiction." Rebecca's phone chimed with coordinates. 12 miles northeast. The terrorists were heading for the border, probably planning to slip back into Mexico. "Roger, Control. Ghost acknowledging priority alpha." "Copy that, Ghost. These are the same cells responsible for the Kabul embassy bombing. Personal authorization from the Secretary of Defense. No quarter." The line went dead. Rebecca could be on scene in 20 minutes, but first, she had to deal with the Iron Wolves. She stepped back into the main saloon to find Diesel cornering Sarah by the jukebox, his massive frame blocking her escape. Tommy had vanished. Old Pete was gone. "There she is," Razor announced. "Our mysterious bartender with the important phone calls. Tell me, sweetheart, who was so important that you kept the Iron Wolves waiting?" Rebecca moved behind the bar, her movement fluid and controlled. She began wiping down the surface methodically, buying time to assess the tactical situation. "Just business," Rebecca replied, not looking up. "Business?" Razor vaulted over the bar, landing close enough that she could smell whiskey on his breath. "What kind of business does a bartender have that requires secret phone calls?" That's when he saw it. As Rebecca bent to put away a glass, her denim shirt pulled tight, revealing the outline of something hanging from her neck. A chain, partially hidden but unmistakably military. "Well, well," Razor said softly. "What have we got here?" Before Rebecca could react, he yanked the chain from beneath her shirt. The dog tag came free with a metallic clink, spinning in the neon light. The room went absolutely silent. Stamped in regulation military font. Thompson, Rebecca M., Delta Force, Serial, DF7739 classified. Razor's smirk faltered as he read the inscription. Behind him, the other Iron Wolves craned their necks to see what had caused their leader's sudden change. "Holy shit," whispered one of the younger bikers. "She's Delta Force." "No way," Diesel growled, though his voice carried less certainty. "Some little bartender can't be Special Forces." But Razor was studying Rebecca's face with new understanding. The calm wasn't submission. It was the stillness of a predator choosing when to strike. The gray eyes weren't empty. They were calculating. Because the truth about Rebecca Ghost Thompson was even more incredible than anyone could have imagined. Because the truth about Rebecca Ghost Thompson was even more incredible than anyone could have imagined. Rebecca took the dog tag back and slipped it under her shirt, her movement deliberate and unhurried. When she spoke, her voice carried a new undertone, something that made the temperature drop 10 degrees. Gentlemen, I've had a very long day, and I just received a work call that requires my immediate attention. I'm going to ask you politely one time to finish your drinks and leave my establishment. The way she said my establishment made it clear this wasn't a request. Razor laughed, but it sounded forced. You hear that, boys? G.I. Jane here thinks she can order us around because she's got some military jewelry. But his eyes were doing calculations. Delta Force operators weren't regular military. They were the most elite soldiers America produced, the kind who appeared in news stories about terrorists found dead in caves. I don't think so, lady, Diesel rumbled, stepping closer. Fake tags or not, you're still just one little... That's when Rebecca moved. In a single fluid motion, she reached under the bar and came up with something that made every Iron Wolf freeze, a military-issue sidearm held in a grip that screamed professional training. The Colt M1911 wasn't just any pistol. It was custom Delta Force issue, modified for operators who needed absolute reliability in the world's most dangerous places. Like I said, Rebecca repeated, her voice unchanged. Finish your drinks and leave. Now hold on there, lady, Razor said, his hands rising slowly. The mocking tone was gone, replaced by careful calculation. Let's everybody just take a deep breath. I am breathing just fine, Rebecca replied. Her grip was textbook perfect, firm but not rigid, finger along the trigger guard, muzzle pointed safely downward but ready to rise instantly. The question is whether you gentlemen will be breathing when you leave. Diesel, too drunk to read the room, took another step forward. Come on, Razor. She ain't gonna shoot nobody. Rebecca's gray eyes flicked to him. Sir, I have personally eliminated 43 enemy combatants in direct action. 37 with a sidearm from distances ranging from 3 to 50 meters. Would you like to find out if number 44 is within my capabilities? The casual way she recited the statistics sent a chill through the room. This wasn't bravado. This was professional fact. Jesus Christ, muttered one biker. She's counting confirmed kills. Behind her calm words lay years of memories. Kabul, 2019. Operation Ghostwind. Her Delta Force team sent to eliminate a Taliban commander. When local police surrounded their safe house, Rebecca, call sign Ghost, held off 23 attackers for 4 hours while her wounded teammates called for extraction. Stories like Rebecca's prove that heroes walk among us everywhere, often unrecognized. Tell us where you're watching from. What city, state, or country. We want to honor the quiet warriors in your community, too. What happened next would restore everyone's faith in justice and the power of quiet dignity. What happened next would restore everyone's faith in justice and the power of quiet dignity. We're leaving, Razor announced, backing slowly toward the door. Come on, boys. Time to find another bar. But Diesel, his judgment clouded by alcohol and wounded pride, wasn't ready to retreat. Bullshit, Razor. I don't care what kind of tags she's got. We don't run from some bartender. The words died as Rebecca's pistol snapped up to eye level, the barrel centered precisely on his forehead. Her movement was so fast that several bikers jumped, hands instinctively moving toward weapons before freezing. Sir, Rebecca said, her voice dropping to barely above a whisper, I would recommend very strongly that you reconsider your next words. In my professional experience, men who disrespect women tend to have very short life expectancies. Even the ceiling fan seemed to slow its rotation. Diesel's face had gone pale. He was looking into the eyes of someone who had killed people for a living, and his survival instincts were finally overriding his ego. Diesel! Razor snapped. Shut your mouth and get to the bikes, now! For a moment, the massive biker stood frozen between retreat and stupidity. Finally, survival won. He stepped back, hands raised. That's very wise, Rebecca said, lowering the pistol but not holstering it. All of you. The Iron Wolves began filing toward the door. their swagger replaced by careful movements of people who understood they were in the presence of a predator. As Razor reached the threshold, he turned back one last time. "You know what, lady? You might have scared off some punk kids, but the Iron Wolves don't stay scared. We'll be back." Rebecca tilted her head slightly, studying him with detached interest. "Mr. Williams, you should know that I received a priority alpha call tonight. That means I have authorization to engage hostile targets with extreme prejudice. If you return to my establishment, I will consider you enemy combatants operating on American soil." She paused, letting that sink in. The rules of engagement for domestic terrorism are very, very flexible. The Iron Wolves' Harleys roared to life, but instead of triumphant departure, they looked like wolves that had discovered they'd been stalking a mountain lion. Sheriff David Martinez's patrol car pulled into the parking lot as the bikers fled. At 45, Martinez had the weathered look of someone who'd seen violence in too many places. 20 years, Army Rangers, 15 years sheriff, had taught him to read situations instantly. He entered to find Rebecca calmly cleaning glasses, her sidearm properly holstered. "Evening, Rebecca," he said. "Heard you had some trouble tonight." "Nothing I couldn't handle." Martinez surveyed the scene. Overturned chairs, spilled beer, the lingering scent of fear. But no bodies, no blood, no obvious crimes. "Mind if I ask what kind of trouble?" Rebecca looked at him directly. "Sheriff, how long did you serve?" 20 years, Rangers." She nodded, understanding passing between them. "Delta Force," she said simply. Martinez felt pieces clicking into place. The mysterious bartender who'd appeared 3 years ago, never talking about her past, moving with controlled grace. What followed would be remembered by everyone there as proof that quiet strength always prevails. This moment would be remembered throughout Tucson as proof that true warriors never really retire. "Well, I'll be damned," Martinez said quietly. "That explains a lot." "Does it change anything?" Rebecca asked. Martinez considered the question. As law enforcement, he should be concerned about vigilante justice. As a veteran, he understood that sometimes justice and law weren't the same thing. "Depends. Anybody hurt?" "Just some egos." "Property damage?" Rebecca glanced around. A few overturned chairs, spilled drinks. "Nothing that won't clean up." "Any crimes committed?" This was crucial. Rebecca had drawn a weapon on 12 men, threatened them with lethal force. Technically, that could be assault, brandishing, terroristic threatening. But Martinez was looking through the eyes of someone who understood the difference between aggression and defense. "Sheriff," Rebecca said quietly, 12 armed men entered my establishment, threatened my customers, implied protection racket activities, and refused to leave when asked politely. I defended my property using minimum force necessary to resolve the situation without casualties. "And the gun?" Rebecca produced her concealed carry permit and military ID. Her security clearance was marked TSSCI, top secret, sensitive compartmented information, the kind held by people who killed terrorists for a living. Properly licensed, both state and federal. Martinez studied the documents, processing what he'd learned. A decorated Delta Force operator, living quietly in his jurisdiction, had defended citizens from criminal intimidation. "You know," he said finally, "Old Pete mentioned those bikers were talking about protection rackets. That sounds like organized criminal activity." "It does, doesn't it? The kind my department takes seriously. We might need conversations with the Iron Wolves about their business practices." Martinez called dispatch. "Unit 7. Bolo alert on 12 motorcycles. Iron Wolves MC. Suspected racketeering and criminal intimidation. Consider armed and dangerous." He looked back at Rebecca. "We could use more citizens willing to stand up to criminals. Takes real courage. Just doing my civic duty." As Martinez prepared to leave, he paused. "Rebecca, those men threatened Sarah and other customers. In my book, that makes you a hero. More than that, it makes you family. You ever need anything at all, you call me directly." He handed her his personal card. Day or night. After he left, Rebecca stood alone, processing the evening's events. In 30 minutes, she'd revealed her identity, faced down 12 hostiles, earned law enforcement respect, and established herself as community protector. Her satellite phone buzzed. Ghost. Status report required. Rebecca typed back, minor delay. En route to target zone in 10 minutes. She locked up the Desert Rose, climbed into her modified Jeep, and drove into the desert night. She had terrorists to catch. Thank you to everyone who shared where they're watching from. Your comments prove that respect for our quiet warriors spans every corner of the globe. The greatest battles are often fought by those who never seek recognition but choose to serve in silence. Until next time, remember, true strength doesn't need to announce itself. It simply acts when action is needed.